I'd like to actually turn to our guests in studio to further discuss this. We have Brigadier General in the Reserves, Relik Shafir, the former commander of the Tel Nof Air Force Base, and former ambassador to France, Shak, the director of diplomacy for the Hostage and Missing Families Forum. So, we were kind of discussing this as we were listening to his speech in studio. Netanyahu made a very pointed decision to focus and recall those very brutal images of the crimes that Hamas carried out against Israeli civilians on October 7th. He used the words rape, he used the words blood, torture, the molesting of the bodies of our civilians. So, that, for me at least, when I was listening to it, was very kind of aggressive terminology when you're speaking to bereaved families like that. The people who are sitting in this crowd, many of them lost family members on October 7th. What do you think his goal was in this speech? What message was he trying to send to the Israeli public?
Look, I honestly don't know. I must admit that on a day like this, Natasha, my attention for speeches by politicians is very low. This is a day to listen to the victims. And with all due respect to the leaders, especially the political leaders who have responsibilities, who had responsibilities on October 7th and still have them today, it's very difficult to find words and speeches that don't sound hollow. And these sound hollow. So, he does what he needs to do. I can understand his temptation to focus on the perpetrators rather than on the victims. He doesn't have a responsibility towards the perpetrators. He does towards the victims, and I don't think that they are happy with his performance.
Yeah, Relik, I'd like to kind of turn to you just to kind of hear your take on what the public feels right now in terms of what needs to happen next. We're seeing the ongoing war in Gaza against Hamas, Israel threatening a much larger ground operation in Rafah, which the U.S. has come out starkly against and continues to be starkly against. Today, a day that is so painful for so many Israelis, especially given the fact that almost all Israelis are obligated to go to the army, what do they want to see happen next? Do they want this war to continue? Or would they like to see a ceasefire and hostage release deal made immediately that will put an end to the fighting and hopefully bring at least some of their troops home?
I think what we heard today was Netanyahu's he's best when he is pressed to the wall and he paints the dire situation that we were put by others. So he's not taking responsibility, but he paints the other side as totally black, and us as totally white. Doesn't matter whether it's the high court. They're black and we're white in the sense of good and bad, or whether it's other political parties or Hamas. So he puts them all as a shield that paints the difference. So it's hard not to get emotional when he describes Hamas. What was missing here is taking responsibility. What do you do as a leader of the nation so that tomorrow will be better than today? This is the frustration of Israelis. What is going to happen tomorrow in Gaza? Who is going to take care of Gaza? The day after? What is going to happen in the north? There are about 100,000 people who are displaced. Is there any hope for them? Any future that they can look at? He's not there. He's not there for several reasons, some of which are political, some of which are his own ideology that crumbled, and so he holds on to, we will fight with our fingernails.
Right.
People don't fight to their fingernails. We won't fight with our fingernails. We're fighting with the best American technology, and doing quite well. Had it been for positive actions by this government that shows what the future will look like and how we can access that future, even though we will have to give up some of our dreams, stop the war, exchange whatever can be, resume the war, something of that nature that shows emotional support for the bereaved families and for the hostage families. That could have worked, but he's not able to show that, and that is part of the fact that this year has probably been one of the hardest since the War of Independence, but the War of Independence carried a great hope and future for Israel, where this war, the government is not able to get any hope for tomorrow, and that is a dire situation.
Right. Well, I mean, that question of what comes next is on everybody's minds. You know, we've seen these hostage release and ceasefire negotiations come to what appears to be a complete standstill. That's a nice word to explain the situation. A light way to explain it. And you know, we keep on hearing the Israeli government say that the goal is to take out Hamas both militarily and civilly as well. There will be no Hamas leadership by the time this war ends, but there's no clear path as to what would then happen in Gaza. Who would take over? Who is the next leadership of Gaza? So, you know, I guess my question for you is, what can we expect in the coming months, if at all, given what is happening right now?
Look, you described a situation that is typical for Prime Minister Netanyahu and for his current coalition. Because the war and the short and medium term are things that he can handle. The post-war, the day after, the famous day after, takes him into a political minefield. And that's why he doesn't want to go there.
Right.
That's where the risk factor for his premiership, for his leadership, lies. And that is the main reason, because, I mean, he's a very intelligent person. I can't imagine that he doesn't know a person who is profoundly interested in the history of wars and of conflicts. He must know that there doesn't exist a thing that is called a purely military victory in any war in history. There always has to be something that comes after the war that consolidates a real victory. And he doesn't want to go there for the reasons that I described, which are not acceptable or relevant reasons as far as I'm concerned. They are not also relevant and acceptable reasons in the eyes of our main ally, the United States, and many other countries in the world. But that is the situation. So I can't predict what will happen soon, except to tell you that unless something really dramatic happens, it will be more of the same for a long time. And, you know, from the perspective of the hostage families, I just hope that we will get the issue of the hostages out of the way as soon as possible.
Right.
I don't know how believable that wish is, but if we don't hang on to that, I mean, it's going to be really unbearable.
Something I just want to say really quickly
Yes.
is, you know, starting tonight, we're going to be heading into Israeli Independence Day. This is something that's unlike any other country in the world. Israel goes from the most somber day of the year into what's supposed to be the happiest day of the year, celebrations. But is that what we're going to see on the streets here in Israel?
This year we should stay in the somber day.
What is
Well,
your take on-
there's not going to be festivities out in the streets, but we must remember that as a nation, our potential, our human potential, national potential, economic, cultural, and otherwise is great. And it takes a different type of leadership, and things don't last forever. It may be this year or next year, we're going to see a new generation of leaders that hopefully will be able to take us out of the situation we're at now and use that potential to rebuild Israel. So looking from this point, we need to set up our horizon a little bit above the low level we're at now and sort of to see the light that is always a tomorrow.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to end our broadcast for now.